Been extremely fortunate that we've still been able to bring in a lot of new development, a lot of new jobs. That brings challenges with it as well. Biggest concern we still have, of course, is traffic. How do we deal with it? And quite honestly, I've been asking some of the legislators to put out a where you can have a referendum statewide whether to increase the gas tax. I think I saw the other day where they're proposing that you can do it by county. And of course that wouldn't help us at all unless we had Berkeley, Charleston, and Dorchester combined in it to make it work. But the growth we're getting all over the area, but in North Charleston specifically, we're getting a lot of new housing, a lot of new apartments, a lot of younger people moving back into North Charleston, which is a healthy sign.
Isn't the average age in the city of North Charleston something like 30 years old?
No, not quite that young, because
Yeah.
some of us carry it up. but if you go to the old village any night of the week, there's a lot of 25 to 45-year-old folks there.
Yes.
And then you got this old 70-year-old man sitting over in the corner having a glass of wine and enjoying the crowd. But it's when we see that happen, and if you look how fortunate we've been, for instance, what's been going on over at Citadel Mall, it's been going downhill. Northwoods Mall has actually grown in sales. So we've been very excited about that. The outlet mall is growing. They now have put in a request to do some wetlands fill to expand what's over there with some new activity. We've got a brand new apartment complex that's just opened there. The Beach Company's fixing to open their new apartment complex in the old village, 272 units. Palmetto Brewery is fixing to start construction on their brewery in the old village. Firefly is looking at locating off of Spruill Avenue. And then we've got another group that's looking at moving a brewery into our old public works facility on the river, on the creek. So, you know, we're getting all that activity. The home prices, especially in the Park Circle community, have gone up unbelievably per square foot. But it's where a lot of young people are wanting to come now, and you know, it's exciting for me to see a neighborhood that is old as Park Circle, and I see moms jogging now, pushing strollers with babies in it, and that's great for us because we had lost that age group for a long period of time, and you know, we've seen it happen there, and now we're seeing that happen in other neighborhoods as well.
The look ahead, I guess, if we're putting dates on it, look ahead for the new year, what's to come, what do we have to look forward to? I personally would like to see a parking garage at the Coliseum, a really, really big one.
We've actually just bonded that.
Aha!
2,000 vehicle parking deck that would be located behind the Coliseum. Hopefully that will encourage a new hotel to go in front of it, maybe an office building behind it, back by 526 Mark Clark. And we think that's we've got to create more parking. This is one of two that is planned for the site. The other one would be several years down the road. It's about probably $30 million to build a 2,000 space parking deck, which is more than we paid to build the Coliseum. But you know, the additions that we did in the past year to the Coliseum have been great. It's given it a lot of new life. We're now working at putting inside there this year an area for people to have lease it during events where they can have 40 or 50 people and have a party. They're looking directly at the show, but for different events, we think it'd be a great promoter for the facility. We're working on that. We've got 2 senior adult facilities under construction that will be a place for seniors to gather, one up in the Northwoods area, one in the Dorchester Road area. They also will have an indoor exercise pool so that our seniors can exercise, have a great opportunity to do that. We've got a new fire station that is currently under construction up in the Northwoods area. We just opened one in the southern end of the city. We're looking at building a gym in that end of the city. We've appropriated money in the bond bill to build a 3-gym complex. We haven't decided the exact location yet, so that we can start bringing in basketball tournaments, volleyball tournaments, badminton tournaments, anything we can that will fit in those courts. Creating a draw that gives us the hotel motel accommodations tax, food and beverage tax, those type of things that help the ancillary revenues come in to keep property taxes low. We're still the #1 retail city in the state, surpassed Columbia last year by over $1 billion. So we're excited about it. Boeing's planes actually are considered a retail sale now. The only problem is, like a car, the most we can collect is a $300 sales tax. But that has worked out. Boeing's been a great expansion for us. They're just opening up their new paint facility and getting operation in there the first part of this year, which is great. We're looking forward to the Mercedes plant completing their expansion. They, for years, to beat the tariff, they would actually bring in a van from Europe and bring in the motor and transmission. After they had built it, they took it out, shipped it over, put it back in here, and they didn't have to pay a tariff. They're now going to start manufacturing the vans here locally, complete assemblage. And then while we were there, had the groundbreaking on the facility, I told them they needed to start doing a Mercedes pickup. And I found out the other day they are now designing the Mercedes pickup. So
Are they going to call it the Mayor Summey?
I'm going to get the first one. But, you know, it's the things that we've got going on in retail, housing, and in industrial growth. We're looking forward to a great year this year. One of the things we've had to live through this past year is the trial of one of our former police officers, and that's carrying forward into this year. Hope we will see resolution one way or another. We went out very early and said we had someone had made a mistake. It was liable to us, and we took care of the family and ended that instead of having that hold over our heads for a number of years, which could affect your bond capability, things of that nature. So we resolved that issue. We still got to live with the issue of communities getting together. Our crime rate as far as homicides were up this past year, set a record, 32. And some of that I honestly believe has to do with the concept that had been used to be more active in the neighborhoods where you have the most reported crime. Basically, we were sanctioned for that by some of the community, and so we've slowed it down, and unfortunately we haven't seen the results. You know, when it comes to people and who they are and what they are, the one thing you have to remember, the first influence on a child is the family. Second influence is the community. Third influence is the church. Fourth influence is government. We're not good at changing people. We're good at making sure people respect each other as far as stealing from somebody or shooting somebody or what have you. But we work with young people every day to try to enhance their view of life and where they have an opportunity to go with their life. But that's not really fully government's role. And I think until the community accepts that responsibility, we're going to continue to see some of the crime that we have.
Yeah, the challenges would be what we can move forward to next. I do wonder, because we do have another Slager trial come spring.
Correct.
And, you know, what has changed, I guess, in the City of North Charleston Police Department since? I know that there's been a push for some sort of citizens review board, or... We
are forming a citizens review board. We worked with the civil justice group and worked with them to come up with a plan. We're currently implementing it. I get one appointment, each council member gets two, and then there's 3 young people that are appointed, and the chamber appoints one, so that we've got a good configuration of the population. I've already asked someone to serve in my position. Her name is Dot Scott. She is the president of the Charleston NAACP, but she lives in North Charleston. She and I have not always agreed on a lot of things, and I thought it was important that we put somebody in there that would be reasonable but also question. And so I'm excited about her accepting that opportunity to serve the people in the city of North Charleston.
I've often said, what your life has to matter to you first.
Absolutely. I mean, and if it doesn't, in your children's lives. I mean, we recently had a homicide where one brother killed the other brother. I mean, and that's, something's wrong when we're seeing that. I saw in the upper part of the state the other day, it's not just in North Charleston,
Lexington,
where a gentleman killed his wife and his 2 kids, 4 and 2 years old, and then committed suicide. So those are the troubling times in society. But I tell folks all the time, if you don't hang around people that are carrying guns, you're less likely to get shot. So I encourage people to know who you hang with, and our young people, your parents, know who your children are hanging with, and what is going on in their lives outside of the home, and try to engage it. It's a tough job. I raised 2, I know. I got 4 grandkids I worry about every day now, but I can tell you that it's going to have that parental involvement to help us make the changes that we need to do as a complete community, not just as government, but as a complete community, including government.
One of the more memorable moments for myself this past year was with Councilwoman Dorothy Williams when she stood up and she said, where are you when kids are getting caught in crossfire, gang fire,
Dot is very much a realist. She has raised not only her children, but some of her grandchildren. She has a unique perspective, and she can be very vocal about it sometimes, but I have found her to be a very rational person and understands far greater than me some of the needs within the communities and the community involvement.
So I think it's National Action Network's going to be speaking about the Iris Street, the sidewalk homicide with the boyfriend. Yeah. And I wonder how do we come together as a community, whether it's government in these organizations like the National Action Network, and be on the same page, because the goal is the same.
I think that's what you might see today, is where they're saying that the community's got to step up against all the violence that's going on, and the city will assist any way that we can. Yeah. But it's going to take those leaders, instead of pointing their finger. My dad taught me something years ago. He said, son, every time you point your finger at me, there's 3 coming back at you. And I said, yes, sir, I see that. And I think that's the way we each have to look at life. Let's not point fingers. Let's find ways that we can communicate together. Elder Johnson, who runs that organization, he's got my phone number. We communicated during the Christmas holidays about an issue. And we're open to do what we can that the law allows us to do.
Right. Yeah. I think for folks, you said, if you don't hang around people, that have guns, you're likely not going to get shot. Well, there is, I guess, just breaking the 7-year-old, riding on the bicycle down the street getting shot in the leg.
And unfortunately, it was in a neighborhood where we had our first. No, that wasn't the first homicide. I think the last homicide of the year. Our first one was actually in another area off of Dorchester Road. We've already had one this year. Mm-hmm. And we're in, the 3rd day of the month.
Yeah.
So we're wanting to do what we can, but we still have to respect the rights of those people that are in the street and make sure that we do it in a holistic approach that makes sure that we do it appropriately as well.
I had said before we started recording here with Mayor Keith Summey that my family grew up in North Charleston.
Right.
So, Cameron Terrace area. So I certainly know what you're talking about. We've got some great
areas. We've got some challenging areas. Most of them have socioeconomic issues. And working with the school district, we've started so many new schools. The New Chicor Elementary School, which is in the area I grew up in, is absolutely beautiful. And the teachers are putting everything that they've got into the package, and we're getting more parents involved. So I think the future is looking brighter. But we ended up in a section, and this was in my era, my time frame, where grandparents raised the children. And now those parents are grandparents and still don't know how to raise a child. And that's not everybody, but there's a good bit of that goes on within the community, and teaching a young person responsibility, teaching them how we must get along with each other and work together. And the prevalence of guns in every community in this country today is unbelievable. And these are not the guns that some people are saying we shouldn't allow the sale of. They didn't buy these guns from a gun store. And we really would like to find out how all of them are getting here. I mean, my wife and I have been shot at before, and it's a horrible feeling. But it doesn't mean that you just go into the house and hide. You go out and you work to get things accomplished, to make positive changes, and we're making strides. We're nowhere near where we need to be.
Will you ever call it quits?
I've got 3 years left in this term. I'll be 72 when that happens. And I tell people, as long as my health allows me to, as long as the general public will continue to elect me, and as long as I can remember how to get to the office, I would like to hang in. Ryan told me he would pick me up.
Is that why you have this guy driving you around? So you know where you're going.
So I know where I'm going. But you know, I have loved serving the people of North Charleston. I think we've made some grand strides in the 22 years that I've been the mayor. We've got council members that I think truly care about their districts. We don't always agree, but I've been married for 47 years, and we don't always agree, but we still get along and get things done.
Wow.
And that's what we have to do in life, is you don't have to always be right, and people need to understand that. There's different approaches that can be taken, and I've always been one of these guys anyway. If I go after a loaf of bread and all I can get today is a half a loaf, I'll go after the other half later.
46 years, you just said?
47.
47. We just celebrated our 10th. I was like limping to the 10-year mark.
Listen, it's...
47. Any advice?
And we dated for 7 years. So
wow.
She was in the 9th grade and I was in the 10th grade when we met. And, of course, dating back then was holding hands under the hymnal in the church so her daddy couldn't see us. But, you know, and we just stayed together. And just like in any marriage, we've had to work through different things over the years. But I try to tell young people today, the grass always seems greener on the other side of the fence. But every winter, it all turns brown. So you're going to have periods where the grass is growing and periods where it's not. What you have to do is make sure that it comes back out the next season.